I just wanted to let you know, first and foremost, why I wasn't on the RedZone last night, and that is mostly because I was at the house show at the Garden last night, at Madison Square Garden, that is, and I brought my daughter. It was her first wrestling show. She's kind of been bugging me to take her I go to a couple of them here and there. As you could see, I spend a lot of money on wrestling kind of shit, I like going to shows, and she's always wanted to go because I've gone to a bunch of them, and she's like, when do I get to go? So this one in particular, I decided to take her to, not only because it was right around the holidays, and I thought that would be kind of a cool add-on to what ended up being her Christmas gifts. But I've done some research about that particular show, and it seems to be kind of like a family-friendly thing. And I'm from New Jersey, so taking her into New York, something. She's 8 or whatever. She's not gonna just run off or anything like that, but something I got to worry about. So it was very convenient. I just take the New Jersey Transit train right into Penn Station, walk upstairs. So it was just like the best case scenario. So this is the show that I decided to take her to. But like I said, it's sort of like a family-friendly environment, and it was just a house show that was going on while Raw was going on in Chicago. Now, I had thought that, I guess Raw, I thought I looked it up and there was like something going on in Connecticut. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I just completely misread, or maybe I was looking at like the wrong year of what Raw was on this particular night. They're in Chicago for Raw tonight, or last night, I guess, whatever it was. So that's kind of crazy, because supposedly, as Stephanie McMahon said on Raw, because I watched it since, was that they would be SmackDown was going to be going to Chicago for Raw, SmackDown tomorrow night, which is just crazy because that's like a 10-hour drive. So, hats off to those guys for doing the trip and all that stuff. That's not easy. But so I did go to the house show last night. I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a report on what happened there. I mean, it was interesting. It was a house show, so I've never been to a non-televised WWE event, I don't think. At least NXT Philly was the closest thing, but that did ultimately kind of have some matches that were shown on television. But yeah, this is like sort of the first thing I've ever gone to that was just sort of a house show. I normally go to takeovers or Raw or whatever the case may be. But it was sort of cool. I've heard a lot of good things about house shows and how there's kind of a little bit of kind of flexibility for the talent, and they can kind of do different things that they want to do. So we started off the night with a tag team turmoil match, which was pretty cool for the tag team titles. It's a house show. They do defend the titles, but it was obviously the Wyatt family, Breezango, American Alpha, the Usos, I'm probably the Vaudevillains and the Ascension, or no, the Ascension, not the Vaudevillains, but it was what it was. I'm not gonna go break it down because none of this stuff matters. It happened at a house show, but there was a couple cool spots that happened. Breezango comes out at some point early on in the match while the Usos are kind of running things, and they get pretty much squashed immediately and thrown out, and it was just really funny. They came in, they just kind of did their shit. They were making it rain, fashion tickets and all that kind of stuff. It was really funny. But that, and then we have Jason Jordan and American Alpha were in the ring at one point towards the end of the match, and they were facing the Wyatt family. So there was this really cool little segment of the match between Randy Orton and Jason Jordan. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing more of, hopefully on WWE TV, because they had just had like a really cool kind of chemistry in the few minutes that we got to see together, and their styles and looks and statures and all that kind of stuff are very similar. So it just maybe not styles, but just something about them together worked really well. So I hope we get to see a little bit more of that. There was a weird segment in this match where the Usos had, like I said, kind of taken over control for a little while, and the Wyatts basically come out, and they, now the two teams are facing off, but they're both heels, which was sort of weird. So the crowd doesn't really know what to do with it, other than everybody fucking loves Randy Orton apparently, because this crowd just would not shut up. It was RKO chants for most of the match, even when he was just standing on the apron. Randy being, just great at what he does. Seeing this show live and seeing some of these guys, for the first time, really helped me appreciate how good they actually are. And maybe it's something that you really need to see live in order to kind of absorb, like, how much control over the crowd a guy like Randy Orton has. We as maybe smarks kind of look at him as just kind of like old hat at this point. I mean, yeah, he's great, and he does, he puts on great matches with great wrestlers and yada, yada, yada. But, there's just, there's something sort of stale, I think, for a lot of people about Randy Orton. But when you go and you see him in the crowd and you're just absorbing this control, like I said, that he has over everybody. The crowd's chanting for RKO, RKO. He like literally would go to set it up and then just tag in Bray Wyatt and just go stand on the apron and like not flip off, but kind of just like tell the first couple people in the first row to piss off or whatever. It was just he's just really good, and he's I think he's really embracing this heel thing and this Wyatt thing. I wonder if they ultimately, I don't know, man. Like that angle could go in so many different directions, but I think he's having a lot of fun doing the role. I think he likes working heel more naturally. I think it just suits his character. I think he's just, reportedly kind of a dick. So, maybe that's his thing. But yeah, that was more or less it for the match. The Wyatts win, obviously, and retain. But yeah, it was a good opener. And then the next match, we come right out the gate with another title match. It was the women's match. So Alexa Bliss taking on Becky Lynch. Alexa's just getting sick heat. Like she really she's, over with a certain portion of the, just overly horny dude crowd, I guess. But, other than that, she's pretty much really getting boos. Like, people don't like her, and she's really good at just, talking shit and, just posing and taunting and all sorts of stuff, like, just right at the right times and in the flow of a match. And Becky Lynch is, she's another one of those people I think I really kind of grew to appreciate even more than I already had. I was a huge Becky Lynch fan. And going into this, and then she just kind of turned it up another notch for me. Just being there and seeing her presence and just the way that she interacts again with the crowd, and even like the little shit like in house shows that you notice because there's not something else going on. You get to see them walk back to all the way up the ramp, and they shake people's hands and sign autographs, and it's just really cool. It's a whole different vibe. Like, it's just very friendly, and it's one of these things like it's almost like the performers know that they have that little bit of flexibility, and they're going to take it because these people paid to come see a show that most of them know, when you buy this ticket for this house show, you're not going to see anything crazy. Like, you're going to see a bunch of title matches, but nothing's going to happen. So it's cool to kind of see that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's maybe it's just something you need to go to a house show, not only to see the performers live, but to a house show in particular to kind of see them in a slightly more natural environment. But the next match was a literal piss break 6-man tag match, so I did miss some of it, but I basically came back to see Apollo Crews pin Curt Hawkins in the middle of the ring, I assume with his little sit out powerbomb flip out thing that he does. Curt Hawkins is another one, man. Like, Curt Hawkins is from Queens. He's from New York. He mentions that he's from there, and then immediately like turns it on the crowd, and he's just like, and you people are disgusting, and you hate me, and yada 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 yada. And Curt Hawkins was just like, he was getting some pretty intense heat, and then he demanded basically another match because he felt like he just got screwed, and he goes ahead and demands another match, and he's not going anywhere, and like he's just getting wicked heat. Like, people are just booing, like, get the hell out of here. They're chanting boring at him. Like, I think that's just good heat. Like, I think he's really just, that's why he's there. Like more where he's just bringing more character and more of a foil than anything, and that's really cool. I think he's doing a really good job with that. I hope they give him more time on TV. I wish they'd let him just be Brent Myers, like Prince of Queens, like his indie gimmick was, because that was way over. That's why he carries the scepter around with him, for those of you wondering what that is. But he does demand another match, and we get the Madison Square Garden debut of James fucking Ellsworth. And we get a really big pop. Like, James Ellsworth's music hit, his name comes across the screen, and people lost their freaking minds, man. It was weird to see. I mean, I did too, for that matter. I was just like, all right, cool. Like, this is the spot for James Ellsworth. Super kicking or no chin musicking Curt Hawkins in 2 seconds and hitting him with a 1-2-3. Not facing AJ fucking Styles in the world title picture. Okay, so that's more or less where I stand. I'm all for him doing this kind of shit to a guy like Curt Hawkins. I think that's great. But yeah, so that's more or less that match. But at the end of the match, and this is sort of kind of a general topic I guess I'm going to get into here. At the end of the match, as Hawkins is getting up, the crowd's chanting, you suck, and like, there's a 10-year-old kid sitting to my right with his dad and his mom, and he's saying, "Chan, you suck," and his dad's like, hey, don't say suck, you're 10. Like, it was funny, and that was just kind of a thing that because it was a house show, and because it's just a live wrestling event in general, and because it was this particular show that was sort of like family centric, like it's around the holidays, it's at Madison Square Garden, it's something they do every year. I was very aware of like the crowd around me. I was just trying to be like as good of like like I said, I brought my daughter, so I was trying to be like sort of kayfabe dad, but it's hard. Like, my AJ Styles is like my like one of my favorite wrestlers ever, maybe. But you know, like it's hard to, you know, root for John Cena for the sake of rooting for John Cena. But me and her kind of made it like fun. Like, you know, it was like we were like rooting against one another. And at the end of the day, like most of the, you know, the faces either won or came out looking good at the end. So it was cool. Like she sort of like got her, you know, she got her, you know, jabs in at me about like, haha, like, you know, your guy got beat up. And it was fun. Like, so that was our interaction. But the guy to my right clearly had no interest in wrestling, and his 10-year-old son, like, loved it. He was like decked out in Randy Orton stuff. Like, he knew all the moves. He was like trying to explain it to, you know, his like late 30s, early 40-year-old dad, like, and who's, you know, this is like another language to the man. He has no idea what's going on around him. And he's just like, what's that? What's a DDT? What's, you know, like all this stuff. It was just so funny. And he's talking to me. I think he thought like I was in the same boat as him, which clearly I'm not. Like I know far too much about wrestling. So, you know, that was kind of cool. And then there was like a whole row of kids behind me that, you know, they couldn't have been more, well, it was probably like in a range of somewhere between like 6 and 10. And there was like 4 or 5 or 6 of them probably in a row. And then directly to their left, there's like a dude my age, like drunk, beard, like fucking, you know, same kind of glasses, like just all scruffy hair, like hoodie. He's just screaming like, you know, like Cena sucks, and like he's singing the song, like all right next to these kids who were literally all dressed up as John Cena, like wristbands, hat, fucking t-shirts, like everything. It was really funny, and they were like yelling back at him, and it was kind of cool. Like, I don't know if the guy really knew that he was enhancing the experience for them a little bit by having somebody like near them that they could yell at. But it was funny. Like, it didn't get too intense, but I think the guy was just kind of being a dick, to be honest. Like, you know, like there's a bunch of little kids around. Like, let's not talk about it's fake. Let's not talk about like John Cena sucks. Let's try to watch our language a little bit and not be drunk assholes around what, you know. Like I said, I mean, it's a show that I think it's widely known that annual Garden show is sort of like the family show. Like they do a bunch of goofy stuff, and like, you know, it's just like it's, you know, it's meant for families. It's not meant for the typical New York smarky crowd to come. Like, I brought my daughter. Like, if I had gone by myself, maybe it's a different story and I'm a little bit more loose with it, depending on if I was sitting next to the row of 6-year-old kids. Like, I'm not going to start chanting John Cena sucks. Like, I'll probably find another seat in another section and just, you know, try and keep my distance away from small children, just for the sake of, you know, in my enjoyment and theirs. But the whole show was really like, it was kind of weird just experiencing the different stuff going on around me. And I'll get to a little bit more of that when we get to the main event, because I don't think WWE or most people are aware of like the age cutoff where like kids stop rooting for John Cena, because I think I found it in my section, and I'm going to get to that when we get to the main event, like I said. But we right after the 6-man tag piss break match, we get Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz in a steel cage for the Intercontinental title. Now, I've been to a bunch of live shows. I've seen a ladder match. I've never seen a steel cage match. This was kind of cool. The Miz is one of my favorites, and I figured he was going over because, you know, he's the Intercontinental Champion, and the chances are that he's not going to lose that, you know, to Ziggler, who's got like a world title match tomorrow night, and The Miz is in the middle of his never-ending Intercontinental Championship reunion tour. So, The Miz comes into the ring. He cuts like a sick promo, just shitting on the Knicks, shitting on New York. Like, he's got it in his contract. He doesn't have to defend the title at house shows and podunk towns like New York. Like, he only has to defend his titles in like real championship cities like Cleveland. And he talked to his friend LeBron, and LeBron said he'd never play for the Knicks ever. Like, they offered him a bunch of money. He would just never play there. And he just, you know, the crowd's just raining down boos. And then he even says, you know, I'm not defending this title in this match. You know, like, I don't have to, so I'm not going to, essentially, which was kind of cool because it opened the door for a Ziggler win, which is ultimately what happens. He does win via super kick. And then as he's kind of walking out of the arena, he's walking back up the ramp, there's kind of like a couple like there's like an inflatable Santa and like an inflatable Christmas tree and like a little inflatable penguin with like a goofy Santa hat on. And he's walking by, and he just kind of sees the penguin out of the corner of his eye, and he just kind of looks back at it. And everybody like stops, and he just kind of like half super kicks, and the crowd like goes nuts, and he's just like, all right, and he just like lined it up, and he super kicked the inflatable penguin. It was really funny. I'll give Ziggler credit. Like, I'm generally not entertained by him, but that was funny, so I'll give him that much. And then right after that, we had an intermission, which is sort of weird. I watch a lot of wrestling. Like, I'm not used to like an intermission. I don't know. I guess it's basically for them to like give you time to go pee and smoke, not smoke, but I guess you can't even smoke anywhere anymore. But like grab, take a piss, grab some snacks, buy some merch, whatever the case may be. But it was just, that was just sort of weird. The little intermission. Like I said, I don't go to house shows, so that never happens when I go normally, I guess. But anyway, we come back from the break, and it was Nikki Bella taking on Natalia. CEO will tell you, like, this is my personal hell. Like, this is precisely what I was talking about. Like, just old women's divas wrestling bullshit. Like, I don't need any of this anymore. Like, I just want Asuka on the main roster, and I want her kicking people's heads off, and I want Ronda Rousey to come in. Like, I want real, like, respectable women's athletes. Like, and yeah, Natalia, I guess, has her pedigree, and if she works the heel angle a little bit better than she has in the past, like, maybe we got something there. And the new character's sort of, interesting, I guess. But that was just the one promo last week on SmackDown. For those of you who have watched SmackDown, this week's SmackDown by the time you're seeing this. I haven't. So, but it was just that 1 week on SmackDown last week. She cut that promo. She called Nikki Bella a bitch a bunch of times, and played on her legacy a little bit. That was cool. But she didn't show any real signs of any vast improvement in heel work as far as I could see in this match. I mean, it was just a lot of the same of like, yay, like she always does. And it's just like, fuck you, Natalia, stop being like that. But there was just, I don't know. And Carmella comes out, interferes, and Nikki Bella ultimately kind of overcomes, and she wins. There was like a lot of Cena mocking in this match. Like Nikki Bella kept like giving her the "you can't see me," and there was just, I don't know. Nikki Bella at one point puts on the STF, which was just, I sent a picture to Hayes, and I was just like, I'm literally living in my personal hell. I'm watching Nikki Bella and Natalia wrestle, and they're doing fucking John Cena wrestling moves. I know it's not a John Cena move, but at this point we all just associated with it, especially because it's Nikki Bella. That's the point. But it's just, like, I mean, yes, keep them away from my other awesome female women's wrestlers like Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch and Sasha and Charlotte and yada yada yada. But yeah, there's just, like, this was horrible. This was like, this segment could have not existed in my life. Probably would have been better for it. But nonetheless, we get the pentultimate match, I guess, of the night. It was Kalisto and Corbin. Typical match that they would have, I guess. But seeing it live, it was like another one of those things that, like, I just felt like the chemistry is there, and maybe it's just not coming across on TV. But Corbin works like a real good, like, just like beat down monster style, and Kalisto works like a real good classic, like, underdog in peril babyface. Like, it's just, it's a really good pairing, and it should be coming across better on TV. But a couple little notes here is that they did use Baron Corbin's old entrance Tron, which for those of you who have heard my comments about the most recent one somewhere on one of these podcasts on the network, it was like, I don't know, I like the first entrance with the red and the spotlights and all that kind of stuff, and it was just that's like the best possible entrance. Like, stick with that. I don't understand why they would go another direction, frankly, but maybe they don't want to do the red on SmackDown. But what they came up with is god awful, so they'll just stick with it. Maybe they are going back to it. Apparently Kalisto is now like doing 619s at house shows. Like, I don't know if he's done one on TV. Now that I think about it, like, maybe he has, and I never thought anything of it. But yeah, Kalisto doing this like 619 spot, I guess, is like, I don't know. Kalisto's been so ruined by the lucha chant. I think that's the thing that, like, as I'm watching everybody do it, I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I mean, yes, I know lucha means fight, and we're all just yelling like fight, fight, fight. But like the whole thing, like, do we need to ram it down people's throats that he's a luchador? Like, he's wearing a fucking mask. Like, there's no need for us to be. No need. Anyway, there's just, the match was kind of cool. There was a cool spot at one point where Kalisto attempts like his little short spiked Rana that he does, and he Corbin basically just stands up and just completely deadlifts him and slams him back down, and that was kind of a cool little spot. But the match does end with an end of days, of course, and that's it was, the end of days is cool in person, I guess. I've seen a couple of them, but they're devastating looking, and especially like Kalisto, and the whole crowd, you just feel like, oh, and it's really cool. I like Corbin. I think Corbin's got some potential. Hopefully on the wild card finals on SmackDown, we'll see how he performs against AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler. Like, there should be no reason why that match isn't really good. It might be like a sleeper, really good match if something crazy doesn't happen. Which, speaking of triple threat matches, we get the main event tonight. It's AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, and the returning John Cena, who I, at this moment when John Cena was about to come out, realized I don't think I've ever seen John Cena before. I mean, I haven't gone to a ton of shows. I've gone to a couple NXT shows. I've gone to Raws, or a Raw, I guess, basically, and I don't think I've ever seen Cena. So it was really cool having him come out and do his thing. Or I was at the MSG show that they taped last year where Brock Lesnar and Big Show fought. I was at that too. So it's like I just happened to pop into like random shows that happened to be broadcast live. Like that one I didn't even know was going to be broadcast live. I was just going anyway. But the house show, the show with Cena coming back and the Garden. I've never seen Cena before, so I was like the first time I was ever there for like the pop and the song, like it was just, it was really, really crazy. And I did post it somewhere on my Twitter, so go check that out. There's like a little 15-second clip, which I'm probably posting illegally, frankly, but, fuck it. WWE posts all sorts of people's social media shit all over the place. They're welcoming it at this point. But yeah, my first time experiencing John Cena live, and yeah, unfortunately, I gotta say, I kind of came away with it with like a little less hatred for the guy. I mean, he's good, man. He's fucking good. That's why he's on top of the game for so long. It's really hard to hate him, but he's just, I don't like his character. I just don't. I'm sick of seeing him around the world title, which he hasn't been, which is why I'm starting to like him a little bit more and more every day. But rest assured, when he gets WrestleMania comes and he's facing AJ Styles, he's about to get that 16th. Like I will be fucking angry as all hell. But yeah, John Cena's not so bad, I guess. That's where I came away from it from. But AJ Styles, ladies and gentlemen, he's fucking over. Like, people love AJ Styles, and this is sort of like, I kind of want to just touch on Ambrose had like no crowd reaction. I feel really bad for him. Like, his Shield buddies are getting along on Raw, and they're all like together waiting for him to just come on over, but he's just stuck in this like weird, like, no one gives a shit. Like, even his Miz feud, like, they had to bring Renee Young into it to get some heat on it. I don't know. It's just, Ambrose got no reaction. I don't know that it's necessarily his fault, like, even with all of what I just said as far as his character recently, but he's just not on the AJ Styles, John Cena level. And yeah, AJ Styles and John Cena are on the same level. Like, they were getting equal pops throughout the night. There was the let's go Cena sucks, and then later in the show, like, the Styles fans took over, and it was like, let's go Styles, AJ Styles sucks, and then it was just that whole thing going back and forth. Like, he's taken that shit from him because he's a top guy now, and that's awesome. Like, I was like, at a moment at some point during this show, during this main event, I just thought to myself, I'm living in a world where I'm seeing the WWE champion AJ Styles main eventing house shows at the Garden. Like, this is fucking crazy. Like, if you had told me this was going on a year ago, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. And I'm sorry to like curse so much about it, but like, Jesus Christ, like, AJ Styles, man, WWE champion, like, in the Garden, like, I'm there witnessing it with my own eyes, and he's over. Like, I saw this is kind of getting back to my point before about like where the line is on Cena fans. Like, I had those, like I said, maybe 6 to 8 year old kids behind me, but there was like a group of kids in front of me, 10, 12 at the most, maybe. Like, I couldn't be much older than that. They're all decked out in AJ Styles shit. One kid had like an Kevin Owens shirt on. Like, that's the line. Like, somewhere between 8 and 10 now. Like, you turn to the dark side, apparently. Like, 'cause these kids love the heels. They were singing John Cena sucks, and they were like, doing the Bullet Club thing to one another. They're all too sweet in me, by the way. There we go. And it was just ridiculous. So I just thought the whole thing was just like, wow. Like, I got these kids right behind me, only a few years younger than the kids in front of me, and it's just like, wow, like day and night. So I think like the WWE doesn't give their fan base credit. Like, you want to be PG, that's cool. PG is still more edgy than what you do on a regular basis. Not necessarily Natalia calling Nikki Bella a bitch kind of shit, but the 10-year-olds these days have like a level of sophistication that 10-year-olds when I was 10 didn't have. And when I was 10, I was watching the Attitude Era. So like, I was exposed to far worse shit, and I wasn't prepared for it the way the kids are today. And not to say I turned out so great, but it's just our whole generation, we had this weird, like, we grew up watching like, bra and panties matches, and Stone Cold like drinking beer and beating up his boss, and like on live television. Like, so it was just, it blurs a line, where reality as a kid, like, you don't know, like, I mean, how much of this is real? Is that real beer? Like, once you even figure out it's a work, you're like, is he drinking real beer? Like, that kind of stuff is like, I don't know, like, they were just, today they not only know it's fake, but they're just like more mature on a level because they have access to so much information via the internet now, and social media and yada yada yada. It's just it's a whole different, you know species, almost like they've just evolved. They're growing and learning faster than we were. So and I guess inherently they're just like more mature as far as what information they could handle. And I think that the WWE often kind of works in like the old school, like, no, we need to treat this like we're going like we're going like G-rated, almost like the way that they look at it. But I don't know, like they could do a little bit of edge, and that's sort of like the end of the show here, but I'll kind of ramble on for a little bit longer about kind of the WWE in general, and then touch on Raw a little bit. I'm sorry to hear CEO wasn't happy with it, but yeah, Raw was good. There's sort of this notion going around, I guess, that that this Attitude Era kind of booking is happening on Raw, and I take issue with that, just because there's just like there's a level of edge that they're not willing to go to. Like, all right, so the Seth Rollins, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H love triangle, I guess we'll call it, for lack of I guess a better term, but this is just sort of like three-way dance that they're doing. Like, Steph and Triple H obviously have their relationship, Seth and Steph have their relationship, and Seth and Triple H have their like ultimate battle that's going to occur. This would have been solved in about 3 minutes on Monday Night Raw in 1999 by Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, give me Triple H. No. Give me Stephanie. She comes out. Nah. Boom. Stunner. Done. That's the end of it. Triple H is out there either that night or the next week trying to beat Stone Cold Steve Austin up. That's it. Can't do that now because, I'm not necessarily saying we need to be beating up women on a weekly basis, but, WWE is its own little weird fictional microcosm. Like, it has nothing to do with what's going on in the real world. By no means, by having Seth Rollins pedigree Stephanie McMahon, would they be like in condoning domestic violence. Like, it's two completely different things. Like, there's just like it's own little world. Like, we have Sexy Star was like the Lucha Underground champion. Like, there are women within this world that wrestle with men, and not necessarily within the WWE's universe, but it exists and it's out there. And like, people don't complain about it. It's like empowering. Although Lucha Underground could go a little bit shy of all the female camera cuts that they do to audience crowd members. Like, they female audience members. It's just like every 5 seconds, like Sexy Star, female, random woman in the crowd smiling. Sexy Star, random group of females in the crowd smiling that they're planted. Like, there's no way those women aren't planted, like, to be standing all together and make this like weird sort of feminist movement. But I'm not gonna get political about it, but it's just like, come on, man, it's really transparent, don't do it. But anyway, like, you can't have the Attitude Era without being willing to go that far, without willing to have guys run over each other with cars and throw dudes off of cells, and like that's the kind of shit that we're never gonna really get. And while I don't wish any harm on these wrestlers, because trust me, I don't want these guys to get hurt, or girls to get hurt, or women to get hurt, whatever. I use guys as a general term. But I don't want any of them to get hurt. And but at the same time, like, you need to be able to take those kind of risks to get those kind of results, as far as the storytelling and as far as just the shock value, like, that people will be tuning into Monday Night Raw if like, if there's like a mystery going on as far as like who got hit by the car, and who's driving the car, or whatever the hell it is. Like, this whole like that kind of shit is where they need to go with the storytelling. And like, I want like maybe even like a secret, like, faction or whatever, like this, like an unmasking kind of thing. Like, we don't know who these people are, yada yada yada. Like, maybe if they milked the whole sanity thing out for a while, that would have been cool. If they've just brought them straight up, but I don't think they were ready necessarily as a unit, or as individual parts. Like, Sawyer Fulton has no business on Monday Night Raw right now, but something like that would be kind of cool. Like, almost like the was it the Red Dawn of Death, or whatever the hell it was that was going on in Ring of Honor for a little while, or the DCC and TNA, if they'd done that right. The Aces and Eights actually was a halfway decent angle for a while there, but like, that kind of thing would be kind of cool. That they're not ready to go there yet, and instead they're too worried about I'll get into Raw, I guess, a little bit here about teasing the Shield reunion. Like, oh yeah, guys, the Shield's getting back together. Like, no, I don't give a shit that the Shield's getting back together now because you're telling me all the fucking time that the Shield's getting back together. Stop putting them in matches against one another, making it a big deal, and then all of a sudden being like, oh, it's this big surprise that they got together. Like, no, they all been hanging out in the same room for the last fucking 5 years. Of course they were eventually going to get talking again. Like, yeah, it's just stupid. But, yeah, that whole thing, like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, Mimi, but Roman's fucking killing me. Like, he's sucking all the charisma and awesomeness out of Seth Rollins at this point for me. And he's doing the same thing for the Shield in general. Like, I don't care about the Shield anymore. Like, I just don't. I have no reason to. Like, they're going to get back together and they're going to do something, like, cool. And I'll probably be excited for a little bit, but I'm going to be quickly reminded that, like, unless they really, like, are... But it's just like, like, I don't care at this point. Like, I just want them to stop talking about it. So when it happens, I'm like, my mind is blown. And like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Not like, oh yeah, well, they've been teasing this for 2 years. Like, it was, all right. Like, now I got like these high expectations for how they're going to do it, as opposed to just doing it. And it would be like, oh, I wasn't really thinking about that. That was really cool that they pulled that out of here. Like, that's awesome. But that's, that's not the world we live in anymore, I guess. But Braun Strowman's over as shit. Yeah, he's great. Like, he's awesome. I'm like a huge Strowman fan. Like, I need a shirt. Give me a goddamn Braun Strowman shirt. I also and Josh Perry was from our network was tweeting the other night. Like, he's over, and I'm like, well, yeah, he's over. Like, I wasn't even watching Raw yet, but I was just like, yeah. Like, I figured he turned the corner last week, and I think, like, the Chicago crowd in particular was they were hanging on like every every little like just nuance of him just beating the shit out of people. He came out, they were thanking him for like ending that match. I thought that was great. He's awesome. And speaking of Josh, like, for those of you who don't know, we kind of joke with Josh. His first name is really Verlin, and I think Verlin would be a great name for Braun Strowman instead of beating us over the head with Braun, because he's like, yeah, we get it, he's big and strong. Braun, let's name him Braun. That's stupid. They should have named him like Verlin, and then when people started like being like, Verlin, like, what kind of name is that? Which I'm sure Josh gets all the time. Sorry, bro. But like, that would be awesome. Like, that'd be a great gimmick. Like, if him just getting pissed at people making fun of his name all the time. And I don't know. I like Braun Strowman. I'm already at that point though where I'm turning the corner and I'm thinking how quickly until he's teaming up with like, I don't know, No Hey Jose. like this is what ultimately happens to all of their big monster heels is they build them for a little while, maybe they become champion, they put a baby face over, and now they've lost all their allure and they're dancing, they're in a tag team with Santino Marella, or they're hanging out with Natty and she's farting all the time, or whatever the fuck stupid shit they come up with. But like, this is something that inevitably happens to a monster that they build up. I'm shocked it hasn't happened to Rusev yet. But eventually, these guys all get dancing gimmicks and get teamed up with like little dudes that have like comedy gimmicks, and it's just stupid. But Braun Strowman, yeah, I think the only thing I'd pretty much change about Braun Strowman at this point are his tattoos. Like, I have a tattoo, I hope to get more. Something I notice, he's got the Superman thing and the country strong thing, I guess I can live with. He's got like, I guess it's Tennessee or whatever he's from, or wherever he's from, and country strong. All right, that's cool. And yeah, I guess that's something at least. But then, like, I don't know what the Superman and the barbed wire, and it's just it looks silly on a man that size. Like, you don't need to have Superman tattooed on you. We get it, dude. It's you're a big dude. We understand. It is what I guess, as CJ says, what it is. But that was sort of weird on Raw. But I enjoyed Raw mostly because, and I think if we go back somehow, and I'm not gonna do the math, but if any of you want to, by all means, I'll have you on. We could do a full analysis on any of our shows. But I think Raw is. The excellence of Raw on a given week is directly proportional to the amount of airtime that Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho get, because they got a lot of airtime this week, and that made me happy. It was like just enough to where every time I was kind of hitting a lull in the show, boom, like there was Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho doing something funny, or there's Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho attacking Seth Rollins, or Kevin Owens fighting Roman Reigns, and all the antics that went on with that, and Jericho running out in the middle of the match. Like, give me more Jericho and Owens. You cannot possibly give me enough of these two at this point. Give me 3 hours. Like, let them do a total nonstop deletion where they take over the whole show. Like, the Kevin and Chris show, and they take over. Like, maybe Triple H does come back. He like beats up on Rollins. He joins up with them, and we find out it's like a 3-man power trip. And you know, because Triple H is going to show up on a weekly basis, he just lets them call it the Chris and Kevin show and lets them run the show for a week. Give me that, please. But yeah, literally just let them do whatever they want to do for as long as they want to do it, and I'm happy. And as long as I get enough of it on a given 3 hours of Raw, which is really like maybe 2.5, you know, by the time you get to, you know, with the commercials and all that kind of stuff. But there was just I don't know, like there was a perfect amount of Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho for this particular show, to carry all you know, all the weaknesses of the other segments. But last but not least, I guess for you know, well, I guess not last but not least, 2 more things I want to get into for Raw. The Bayley and Charlotte segment. This I guess kind of runs off on another tangent, but the Bayley and Charlotte, the whole segment was really cool. I you know, it was what it was. It was Charlotte getting heat in a smarky town that would traditionally probably be cheering her at this point because she's such a fucking good heel. Chicago of all places would definitely be like the type of town that would start chanting for her. The CM Punk chants gotta go, by the way, Chicago. Let's just let it go, man. Like, especially at Kevin Owens. You know what? Kevin Owens is fucking better than CM Punk ever was. So I'll say that. Yeah, hot take. Kevin Owens is every bit as good, if not better, than CM Punk ever was. So just enjoy what he's got going on. And by the way, he's got Chris Jericho, who's one of the greatest of all time. In any respectable wrestling fan's opinion. So, you know, like, maybe enjoy what you got in front of you, Chicago. But back to the Bayley segment, and then on to the other Bayley segment. But you know, there was a whole segment with Dana coming out, and then Bayley having enough, and she hits her with the belly to belly. I thought that was cool. And it was like a cool kind of lesson. Like, I was talking to my daughter about that match, and I was saying, like, you know, this is a lesson. Like, Bayley's a total sweetheart. And she'll do everything she can to do things the right way. But when, you know, you get bullied, like, you can't, you know, not to be a star or anything like that, but like, you can't, you know, can't let them win. You know, like, you can't allow people to bully you, especially at a young age, like, because then they're going to realize that you're somebody they can bully forever, and other bullies are going to figure that out as well. So it's like, you know, this is the message that they're sending. This is the audience that Bayley is speaking to. Like, this isn't me going on a tirade. Like, this is just the way the way that the angle works and the way that Bayley's character works, is that, you know, this is a lesson to little boys and girls out there, like, you know, like, don't be a bully, or don't allow bullies to win. Like, don't let them be bullies. Don't allow yourself to be bullied. You know, so that's cool. It's like empowering. It's a great lesson for me to be able to teach my daughter. Like, you know, like I said, I mean, that's what they're going for, essentially. So they did that. I do want to touch on the Dusty Bear segment. So there was this really heartwarming segment in the back where Bayley is essentially, you know, giving out gifts, I guess, or she's talking to R-Truth about their gifts, and she gives R-Truth a hug, and she gives Goldust this little bear. It's like a Bayley bear, like she's got going, I guess, in her Loot Crate or whatever is the new promotion there for her. But she had these little Bayley bears last week, and it's all dressed up like Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty was like a huge influence on her career, and she owes everything to Dusty. So she wanted to give, this to Goldust, because, you know, she thinks, you know, she thought it would mean a lot to him, and she owes everything to his father. And it's, you know, like, obviously Goldust is Dustin Rhodes is Dusty's son. So it was like this really cool, heartwarming moment, and Goldust was just like, oh, you know, this really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Enter the club. And Carl Anderson, you fucking monster, rips the head off of the Dusty Bear, gets just all the fucking heat. He got all the heat, and that's exactly what the segment was supposed to be. And, you know, they ultimately have a match, R-Truth and Goldust against, or the Golden Truth against the club, Carl Anderson and Luke the Doc Gallows, you know, that whole thing. So it was just, you know, the club ends up winning that match as well, and they're mocking the whole thing. Then the internet fucking lost their minds. So there was this whole thing with, Cody Rhodes tweeting out, like, you know, like, I don't want to, like, talk bad about anybody, but I hope whoever produced that segment doesn't feel what I'm feeling right now. Cody, I don't know you, I don't know Dusty, I don't claim to be an insider on wrestling, but I'm calling bullshit, dude. Like, there is no one who would appreciate getting heat more than Dusty Rhodes, one of the greatest bookers of all time. He would have signed off on that fucking segment if he could have. God rest his soul. Dusty Rhodes was one of the greats in the business. He was one of the great minds in the business, and if he knew that he was getting heat still to this day, or he was helping draw heat to this day, he would be so happy about it. And Cody fucking knows that, and Dustin Rhodes knows that, Gold Dust, and that's why he signed off on that segment. There's no way that they would have let that happen otherwise. Like, Gold Dust is at a point in his career where if they tried to make him do something like that, he'd just walk away. Like, he doesn't have to prove anything at this point. And they wouldn't ask somebody that's been, like a treasured member of the roster for like 20 years, not fully, I guess, and not necessarily treasured all the time, but at this point, like, he has a really good relationship with the company. He's sober, like, he's serving his penance, and he's doing this thing on Raw every week. He's taking up a roster spot, maybe in some people's opinion, but I think he's serving a very good purpose. Like, he's there being a mentor to the younger guys, and he's still contributing, positively to the product. So, like, there's no way that they would have asked him to do something like that or made him do something like that. Like I said, I'm calling bullshit. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down about it, including you, Cody Rhodes. I'm sorry your New Japan Bullet Club fucking introduction didn't go, like, as well as planned, and that the whole internet didn't explode over that. So you didn't need to go out and send out tweets and try and draw off of this. Like, I understand, like, I'm not going to say that you're ruining, your father's reputation by doing shit like that. Like, no, he would appreciate you doing the same thing. You're getting heat as well. It's all the fucking work, ladies and gentlemen. It's professional wrestling. This is the way of the world. This is what we're doing now in 2016. So 2017 on the horizon. That's pretty much all I have to say, I guess, about Raw, other than the cruiserweight segments were really cool, and Neville's fucking awesome, and Rich Swann's great, and Charlie Caruso. And that whole thing. But I guess that's more or less it. As we were getting to the end of the year here. I don't know if we're going to do some sort of year-end wrap-up, but I think that is in the works potentially. Other than that, I am, as always, the Andrew Bello, your host of the Next Level Wrestling podcast. But I guess we're going to call this the WWE Holiday Tour Live in about 20 to 35, I don't know, but it's not catchy. Nonetheless, this was an exclusive report from the Wrestling World Podcast Network. As I said, am your host, the Andrew Bello. Find me on Twitter at WWPN Bello. That's at WWPNB as in boy, ELLO. And then you can check us out on the WWPN.com. I'm sure we'll get all the links down there below for you guys. So check that out as well. And thanks for tuning in to this sort of exclusive house show coverage here, brought to you only by the Wrestling World Podcast Network. Peace.